Gg, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time to agree to this interview. I hope you're doing well.
I am, thank you.
Okay, so starting right off, Red Bull Instalock, it's a new kind of event. We haven't seen something like this in Valorant uh, ever, so to say. So, do you have any expectations from the event? Like, although there are only four teams, is there anyone in particular you want to face, or anything that you're looking forward to in this tournament?
I'm definitely looking forward to facing Falcons. I know that it's gonna be a really hard matchup because, well, they have some really, really great shooters, and all five of them could easily run a duelist. So no, it's gonna be very tricky. But I know from last year that it's all about adaptation, and whoever is best at adapting in the moment will basically be the winner. So I hope that we can take a little from our experience last year and put it into this year and make it a W.
All right. So you mentioned that on Falcons, any one of them is able to play a duelist. So what about your team now? In Instalock, they have fixed the three duelist meta, so to say. So on your team, can you share a little bit about who's going to be taking up those roles, if you can?
I can definitely share that I am not playing duelist. But basically I think who we're gonna have, I don't think it will be any kind of secret. Um oh actually I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say. I just decided I'm not gonna say, but it's gonna be spicy. We're gonna have fun, and you're definitely gonna see some some crazy things.
All right, that's completely fine. But can you tell me a bit about how your like how your prep has changed for this event? With the triple duelists, how you're adapting the mentality, the play style, something like that.
So far we're not probably gonna do any like real preparation for the tournament. We're definitely like gonna talk about it when we're gonna be there to like figure out things, but we're not gonna take days off our usual practice to prepare for it because it is really hard to prepare for, honestly. Like you cannot really expect anything. It's really hard to predict what to expect. So it's better to kind of like adapt in the moment and just feel like you understand the situation when you're there. And then hopefully we can just be really good at learning in the moment rather than try and prepare for something that we have no idea what to do.
All right, great. So now speaking of the triple duelists, do you think like all obviously you're doing this event for fun, all of the teams, but do you think something like this would have a place in the VCT, in Game Changers, tier 2, tier 3 Valorant, anything at all? Any thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I think having like set rules in terms of how you have to approach the competition would not fit well with players in an actual like in the VCT circuit. I think that having it is on an off season, it's fun, it's different, but I don't think ever there will be any kind of ruling in your actual VCT matches.
All right, great. So now one last question about the meta in Valorant. Over the years, ever since the game has launched, it has changed quite a bit. New agents are being introduced frequently, maps are changing, all of it. So how do you and your team manage to adapt to such changes? Do you enjoy this kind of innovation, or do you think certain metas from yesteryear, like the chamber meta, or even something more recent like the breach and teho, has a place in the game that you would like to see long term?
I definitely miss a little bit the chamber meta now. When you have so much utility, you kind of miss the simple days. But I do think that it's a different kind of play style, and you have a lot of possibilities with Breach Teho. I do hope that there's gonna be some kind of changes ASAP actually to like for it to for there to be like multiple proper metas, I would say. Right now, the Breach Techo is just so broken that if you're not really using it, you're almost kind of trolling. So I just hope to see a little bit of change. Maybe it's a nerf to Tejo for everyone to kind of like do some changes or see other opportunities that then will be implemented. Hello. What happened? Do you hear me? Oh,
I can hear you okay.
okay.
Casey, you all
I'm
good?
I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi just cut out. If you don't mind, can you please repeat that answer once again? I'm so sorry once again.
Oh shit. Well, basically, what I said is that
I mean,
I
I will say, Casey, I've got the recording, so you could always have a look afterwards if that works.
Yeah, that works, Robert. Thank you so much.
okay, perfect.
Oh yeah, just you'd have to repeat yourself, maybe.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry once again. So
No
now
worries.
talking about Red Bull Instalock, do you think events like these can, cause an increase to global visibility for women's esports, and not just women's esports, but also, the marginalized genders that Riot Games is trying to introduce to esports?
I think any kind of women's tournament is always a great visibility. I think it's more about the storyline between players that's very interesting for the viewers more than anything. Like, for example, Mary playing against her old team. I think that's a really good storyline, and I think that is ultimately what would bring a lot of players into the stream. But obviously, it's a fun, different tournament, and it will definitely be exciting for people to see. I remember last year that many people wasn't aware of the rules, that there has to be 3 duelists, and a lot of people were like, is this how they play in GC? But still, like, it's fun, it's different, and it makes people really like keep on being on their toes.
All right. Could you also give a statement on what it means to you and your team to play in an event like this that, tries to uplift women and marginalized genders in esports?
I think it's always fun, and I love Red Bull. I am a Red Bull player myself, and doing anything with Red Bull is always super exciting. They are never going half-hearted into anything. So I'm just excited to be a part of another event and meet up with my team and get to have some offline experience with them, and of course meet all the other players of the other teams. It's always amazing.
All right, thank you very much. Now, you've been in the esports scene for quite some time now. So, how would you describe the evolution of the esports scene for women in general, not just in Valorant, but overall your entire experience? And what message would you like to give to those, aspiring pros who look at you and want to go to where you've been?
I think that the whole women's scene has definitely gone up. There's way more players than what there was like 10 years ago. Also, 10 years ago, you would see the same names over and over, the same teams and the same players at the high level tournaments. And now you can see almost any kind of team. Everyone has improved so much, and there's so much talent now than what there was just 10 years ago. Obviously, with Valorant coming in, it's a completely different game, and I think it's speaking a bit more to women generally, rather than like other FPS games. And I think that is very healthy for the women's scene. Obviously, also Riot being directly involved with GC makes the whole scene way more serious.
All right. Now, according to you, are there any steps that TOs or even organizations can take to support, this scene which is up and coming now in esports?
I think one thing that will definitely be a selling point maybe for many orgs would to implement a bundle at the Game Changers Champions at the end of the year. This way, orgs who are actually investing into GC will also feel supported and be supported in general, as well as obviously the players who's playing throughout the whole year. I'm not really sure like reasoning behind why it wouldn't be, and maybe there's things that I have not thought about, but I think it's an obvious way to actually be able to support orgs that are spending time and money into the GC scene.
All right, thank you so much. Now, Riot, their main purpose of starting the GC was that so that they can allow women and people of marginalized genders to make the transition eventually into the VCT. So now we have seen an example of that already with Fluorescent at Apex, and even though Apex are not doing the best right now in stage one, she on an individual level is doing really great. So what else do you think that Riot could do to bridge that gap to make that transition more seamless?
I mean, honestly, I don't really think it's up to Riot to do it. I feel like we have great stepping stones. We have the GC scene, we have VCL, we have multiple, especially in Europe. That's what I can speak for. We have like multiple regions that you can compete in. In GC, you're not restricted to any region specifically. You're allowed to compete in any of the regions in VCL. And of course, like it's all about being good enough. Nobody wants to see a GC player who's not good enough to compete in VCT. That's just how it is. So I think that the stepping stones are there, and it's all about the teams and the players to make the progress for themselves and actually be able to make it, because any team, I believe, have to earn their spot and not given it for free.
All right. So now I'm down to my final two questions. So compared to when you first started in esports and um, uh, compared to when you first started to now, how do you think the scene has changed the most, and where do you feel like the most work is yet to be done?
I think the professionalism has definitely been a big difference from what it was before. Um, like obviously, as I mentioned, like Riot is directly involved, treating us just like they're treating the normal VCT circuit at the tournaments. So like at champs, for example, they're treating us the same way as any other team in masters or champions are. And I think that is just, it's a really good feeling as a player to feel like you're being taken care of and they care about you. What can they do better? I think maybe, as I mentioned before, a bundle to actually support orgs that are investing. Maybe have some regional LAN events like we had last year. We had GC3 on LAN, and I think other regions. I mean, we also saw it in APAC. I actually think that everyone but North America had it. I'm not really sure about South America, but I know Brazil has their own studio, and I think players getting to actually experience what it is to play offline before actually go to champs is really important.
All right, thank you so much. Now, the final question from my side, with Riot expanding each year, increasing the number of tournaments, increasing the timeline of the events, what would your dream Valorant event look like? Last year we had the cross-gender tournament, or, more showcase matches. Anything in your mind that you have? Like, how would you build your dream event?
I mean, for me, champs is my dream event. I love how everything is organized. I love that it's different in like different countries, cities. Obviously, we've had Berlin twice, but for obvious reasons, there can also be some other difficulties being the factor to that. But overall, I think champs is any player's dreams, and you really get to have the full event experience. And overall, that is the best event I've ever been to. Every champs.
All right, thank you so much. That was all from my side. Once again, Mimi, thank you for taking the time to agree to this interview, and also thank you, Robert, for making this possible, and also thank you to Red Bull to make this possible and hosting this event.
Thank you so much.